a question that you can ask any human being. Why is it important for you to be you? Every one of us is shaped by our culture. Your language defines you. Your beliefs define you. And the mannerisms are all part of the definition.
From the beginning, tribal peoples tell stories of the past to teach lessons and remember the legacies of those who came before. Many of these stories honor the unbelievable heroes of tribal communities across the nation. One such story occurred in Lawrence, Kansas, at Haskell Institute in the 1920s, and tells of a football team that changed the landscape of American sports.
There's not a lot of tribal history that had reached this caliber of impact on not only tribal people, on not only legislation, but in the very development of American sports as we know it today.
Battling for years against prejudice and discrimination, Haskell acquired some of the best athletes ever seen on the field and showed the country what tribal legends are made of. Nestled in the northeast corner of Kansas, Lawrence is home to Haskell Indian Nations University. Originally a small institution of only 22 students, Haskell grew to serve thousands of Native Americans representing a multitude of tribes from across the United States. Constructed in 1884 by the federal government as an industrial school to strip the students of their culture, religion, and languages, Haskell used an unlikely weapon to battle prejudice: football. Although characterized by news publications as using Indian trickery to win games, Haskell grew to not only become a respected team, but one that silenced their critics as they went on to beat some of the best collegiate programs in the country.
Haskell had to earn its way into the college scene. So Haskell had to start from the bottom up and had to prove itself to the American sports world.
Superintendent Harvey Pierce was determined to make Haskell the new Carlisle of the West. To do this, he hired Madison "Matty" Bell as the new head coach. The greatest advancement, however, was hiring the young visionary Frank McDonald as an assistant coach. McDonald would soon take on a new role that would change the landscape of American football.
Frank McDonald constantly advocated for Haskell, produced numbers, did exhibition games, anything that he could to get Haskell's foot in the door. And as Haskell won more and more games and then started getting a little press coverage here and there, other college teams would agree to sign with them and play the next season.
Beginning in 1920, Bell and McDonald started recruiting Native athletes that would fit Haskell's roster with the best from Indian country. The greatest among them was John Levi.
John was an Arapaho from Oklahoma, just an outstanding player.
He had come to Haskell in 1921. The level of athleticism and caliber and dexterity was phenomenal.
Levi led the country in scoring and touchdowns scored. And Jim Thorpe was quoted as saying that John Levi was the best football player that he ever saw. So there was always a very real respect for Haskell and what it stood for and the high quality of their players. Haskell was beating the likes of Minnesota, Missouri, Texas,
Creighton, Nebraska, the United States Marines.
I mean, that's big-time teams there.
And so at each and every one of these games, Haskell started to earn this reputation.
They were able to beat some of the best teams in the country, this small American Indian institution in Lawrence, Kansas.
Through their extended efforts, McDonald and Bell created one of the elite programs in college football. But Haskell's brilliance was almost entirely seen by opposing fans far from home. Haskell regularly traveled 15,000 miles to play their opponents, often with only a 12-man roster.
Many tribal people around Indian country began to ask, when are we ever going to have a home field? When are they ever going to be able to play for their own people, for their own school?
They needed better facilities, and how are you going to accomplish that? And do you get the United States Congress to build a stadium at Haskell, or do you do it yourself?
To further develop their national reputation and bring other collegiate teams to Lawrence, Haskell launched a $50,000 capital campaign to regrade the existing field and build new bench seating.
And so they launched this stadium campaign, and they thought that that would be suitable then to host these collegiate teams, and they would be able to bring some of that athleticism to Lawrence, Kansas here and to their own school.
To raise the money needed for the field, the government envisioned their alumni and other tribal people would pay for it. McDonald was tasked with forming a plan. His focus became obvious: showcase the team in front of the wealthiest tribe in the nation. So he strategically scheduled a game against Oklahoma Baptist in Tulsa, just a short distance from the home of the Osage tribe.
They were some of the richest people in the entire United States at this time. So Frank McDonald said, look, they have the means to be able to do this. They're close enough to Haskell here. And I know that they support sports, in particular American football.
Unannounced to Haskell was the game the following day between the professional teams of Fairfax and Hominy. After watching them dominate against Oklahoma Baptist, Osage Chief Fred Lookout requested that John Levi and his team help the Osage after receiving a tip that Fairfax was bringing players from the Kansas City Cowboys to substitute for Fairfax players.
As they arrived there, the Kansas City team had arrived just prior. They didn't just bring 5 of the Kansas City Cowboys. In fact, the whole team had arrived. They were gonna switch out the whole team and go under the disguise of the Fairfax team.
After a lengthy plea from McDonald, Superintendent Pierce agreed to allow Haskell to help the Osage. This provided them with the opportunity to again display their skill and dominance on the football field in front of some of the richest people in the country, this time on their own land.
So what Coach Hanley said at the time was, hell, we got a stadium to build. Suit up. And I mean, everybody suit up.
With the field lines drawn using government-issued rations of flour and the Haskell coaches suited up, the game commenced. Given the wagers, substitutions, and deceit, this unsanctioned game quickly became more than a contest. It was an all-out brawl. Playing against a professional team, Haskell finally faced an opponent that was able to hold their powerful offense and keep them from scoring for most of the game. It was a back-and-forth battle of defense that tested their skill and grit up to the final minutes. With Hominy down 13-7, the team had one final play.
Somehow they made this amazing play at the end, and John Levi makes this amazing breakthrough and runs down the field. Nobody could catch him, and he ran it in for a touchdown right at sunset.
After the game, word of their victory spread, and over the course of the following year, donations began to pour in. John Abbott made the first Osage donation, followed by other tribal members, which collectively totaled $40,000. United States Senator and Kaw Indian Charles Curtis also donated and endorsed the stadium campaign. Levi's class of 1924 pledged and delivered $15,000 as well.
The stadium was paid for by contributions from 50 cents all the way up to, I think there was a tribe in Oklahoma, the Quapaws, that gave like $50,000.
Thousands of tribal people from across the country, mostly alumni, donated a total of $250,000, equaling over $3.5 million by today's standards, shattering the original goal and resulting in an entirely new stadium.
It was the first lighted stadium west of the Mississippi River. I mean, it just had so many things. It was the state-of-the-art stadium in America in 1926.
Seeing the community outpouring, 2 Quapaw women, who were both Haskell graduates, donated $15,000 to build an archway into the stadium as a memorial to honor the 415 Haskell Indians who served in the First World War.
The dedication of the stadium was dedicated to the veterans of World War I, of which there were many Haskell students that had served in. It was just a beautiful story of a culture coming together and feeling a great deal of pride, and that the symbol of that, the stadium, that beautiful arch, is still here, and we can still take a look at it. We can still walk into that stadium.
As construction completed in October of 1926, the largest event in the history of Lawrence had arrived to dedicate the Haskell Stadium and Archway. A 4-day event would celebrate and honor Haskell's World War I veterans, the historic Haskell football team, and the traditions of tribal people from across the country.
It was a huge event. Records say somewhere around 20,000 people came. Tribal members from tribes across the country, ranging from the Dakotas area to the Arizona area, came into Lawrence for the event and came for some of the celebrations, witnessed the parade through downtown Lawrence.
The event attracted an estimated 200,000 visitors. An Indian camp was constructed to host the 5,000 tribal peoples who attended to celebrate this great occasion. The celebration started with a sold-out production of the play of Hiawatha. The following day consisted of special contests hosted by the Lawrence Chamber, a parade down Massachusetts Street, and the greatest powwow of all time. The powwow advertised the first World Championship of Fancy Dance, a title won by and a tradition that is continued by the Ponca Nation of Oklahoma. Haskell Stadium dedication propelled the idea of intertribal powwow culture, shaping the powwows we hold today. On the final day, the Osage Nation fed thousands of community visitors who lined up to enjoy the traditional buffalo feed before Haskell's first homecoming game in the stadium. Visitors and dignitaries from around the nation flocked to see the Haskell football team compete against Bucknell University, where Haskell dominated with a final score of 36-0. The 1926 team went on to have an undefeated season and solidify their position as one of the best teams in football history.
The stadium, it reinforced the idea that if Indian people wanted to do something, they could act in a sovereign capacity, bringing honor and pride and leaving lessons for their children that the government did not leave, they left.
Nearly alone in its origin and history, Haskell Indian Nations University continues to serve tribal students in their academic pursuits. Yet, in the athletic arena, Haskell's legacy is profound, with All-Americans and even Olympic stars who impacted the evolution of American sports history. One of the greatest prides of Indian country towers proudly over East Lawrence. It instills a tribal pride that is as great as any other moment in history. The legendary stadium, those triumphs, those stories changed the course of football, Indian education, and affirmed the integrity of America's first peoples.
And so this helped to establish and revive the tribal culture. It only strengthened the tribal culture of the people and the pride that they carried, and the reminder that their ways are still alive.
This beautiful history was gifted to future generations, and its spirit must be kept alive. Now is the time to ensure that these legends never die. This story is told to remind Native peoples that the blood of these legends runs through their veins, and that anything and everything they envision is possible.